The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, news is breaking today that Brookfield Asset Management, a multi-tentacled everything corporation that's chaired by Mark Carbon Tax Carney, will be moving its head office out of Canada. This news comes after reports that for several years, Brookfield's effective tax rate will be well below the new global minimum tax rate of 15%. Carney is the Liberals' senior economic advisor. Why are the Liberals letting Canada's economy be run by a man who puts profit over people?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here it is again. If you aren't a Conservative, you're on a hit list. You are going to be identified and attacked and vilified. It doesn't matter what your contributions were to your country or the world. Your character will be maligned and attacked. And that's exactly what this is, an ad hominem, baseless attack to try to intimidate and scare people from providing commentary and ideas to this government. And that's what Mark Carney is doing. He's providing his thoughts and ideas on a voluntary basis to this government. And I can tell you what they're trying to do is intimidate anybody from giving good advice.
The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Well, the reality is that Mark Carbon Tax Carney is moving Brookfield's headquarters to Wall Street to avoid paying Canadian tax. The reality is that Mark Carbon Tax Carney gets paid more if Brookfield pays less tax. And the reality is that while he's helping his company pay less corporate tax, he wants every Canadian to pay more carbon tax. Why are the Liberals letting Canada's economy, again, be run by a man who clearly puts profit over people?
The Honourable Minister.
Interesting, the Conservatives weren't attacking this individual before he offered to help and give ideas on a voluntary basis. It as soon as he identified that he wants to support the country by offering economic advice, they want to attack him, because anybody who has ideas that doesn't support them becomes a villain, becomes somebody to attack. And that's the kind of country they want to create, where either you're a friend or you're an enemy. Either you agree with them or you attack them. Mark Carney's made incredible contributions to this country and to this world. They should be ashamed with the way they're behaving.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Carbon Tax Carney is this Prime Minister's top economic advisor, and he's moving his $1 trillion international investment firm out of Canada and to another country. Carbon Tax Carney will now be advising this Liberal Prime Minister from Wall Street. These two economic vandals have quadrupled the carbon tax on Canadians, while Carbon Tax Carney's jet setting off to New York City. It's profits over people, while the Prime Minister exempts Carbon Tax Carney from Canada's conflict of interest laws. So why is the Prime Minister exempting now conflict of interest Carney from ethics laws while he operates his company from Wall Street?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Okay, the Honourable Minister.
Well, it's clear that that member, from reading his statement, has spent his day trying to malign the character of a good Canadian. I can tell you that I'm not reading notes right now because I spent my morning working on pharmacare and dental care and trying to connect care to people. And I should wonder if he would go and say to his constituents, you know what I did today? I attacked the character of a wonderful Canadian. I spent my morning thinking of ways to come up with slogans and attack lines to somebody who served his country in the world. That's not how I spent my morning. I spent my morning thinking about Canadians.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Yeah. That minister and his government spent their morning making life more unaffordable for Canadians, sending record numbers of Canadians to line up at food banks, doubling mortgages, doubling rents. That's the record of this Liberal government, and that failure of a health minister with records number of Canadians who don't have a doctor. And this exemplary Canadian that they claim in conflict of interest, Carbon Tax Carney, let's talk about what he did since he got that job. He got Brookfield into negotiations for 10 billion Canadian tax dollars. His credit card company, Stripe, is now gouging Canadian small businesses, and he's been exposed for lobbying illegally UK ministers in the heat pump hustle. It's unacceptable. What can we have a carbon?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Well, we're used to that member playing politics in this House and attacking and maligning the character of great Canadians. But let me reference a member that these individuals on the Conservative benches like to quote over and over and over again. Yesterday, the food professor Sylvain Charlebois at Indu Committee said climate change is the agri-food sector's greatest challenge, and we need to address it, which is very interesting, because if you listen to the Conservatives every day complain and holler about food prices in this country, you'd think that they had a plan or some form of solution, but they do not have a plan to